This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, representjustice.org turns stories of hope and redemption into action to demand a fair legal system, dignity for system-impacted communities, and an end to extreme sentencing and mass incarceration. And they have a new initiative we want to talk about today, Free Our Vote. Obviously, this is important because this is election season. What about those who are coming out of the system, who are getting their right to vote back? How do we advocate for those getting their right to vote? Who better to talk to than my guests today? Two formerly incarcerated women. We're happy to have with us Michelle Sirocco on Make It Plain, and welcome back again, Donna Hylton to Make It Plain. Michelle and Donna, how are you both?
Absolutely fabulous. Living the dream.
Living the dream. Well, that's good to know. Michelle was just telling y'all she's out in Phoenix in the heat, so bless her heart. Donna is with us in Brooklyn. Donna, how are you?
Well, I'm good. Doing the work as always. And so I guess that's a good thing. Unfortunately, the times that we're in, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, some crazy times. So, Michelle, let's begin with you. Tell us a bit about Free Our Vote.
So, I mean, Free Our Vote is really a movement with Represent Justice, that their idea to really raise awareness for the fact that there are so many of us who are not able to vote. So, and there are even more folks who think they are not able to vote, but could be eligible to vote. So it's about raising awareness and giving people the tools and the knowledge that they need to be able to restore their right to vote, and then understand what they need to do when it comes time to vote.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, Donna, Michelle's talking about those who may even be newly free from incarceration, don't really know
But
what about, right?
Wait, I have to interject there. So that's a misconception, and it actually has been a myth in New York State. And so that's one of the reasons why we even created our voting guide, right? Because what a lot of us were told, especially in New York for so long, and we were led to believe, was that we could never vote if we've been system impacted. That has not been true. Unless it's specific to your case, unless it's specific to you, everyone, even with a felony conviction, has had the right to vote and continues to have the right to vote. So I just want to be clear, make it plain, that even with what Governor Cuomo said to the world not too long ago, like, oh, I've authorized or whatever, signed the law that the 30,000 or so can vote. It was always so. It was always so. That, I'm sorry, it was smoke and mirrors to let it seem like he's doing something grand, but it's always been that way for New York. And we wanted to make it plain nationwide, and that's why we created this voting guide.
But now, Michelle, doesn't it differ, or does it not differ from state to state?
It completely differs from state to state and from level to level, right? So, for example, in Arizona, if you the first time conviction for a felony, you can automatically get your right to vote back. It's a very simple process. You send in a form, and they automatically grant it to you. And then if it's the second felony, it's another thing. And then if it's the third felony, well, then it's a completely different thing. So that there's all these barriers, and it's understanding the process and what needs to be done. And it differs by state by state.
Yeah. I'm looking at the map, and it looks as if people are not as restricted, as you said, Donna, as they may have been led to be. Because people do think, well, felony, I'm just finished,
Right.
can't vote, can never vote again. But that's not. I'm looking at some of these states, and that doesn't seem to be that widespread. It looks like the worst case scenario is the restriction. If you, in what I'm seeing, a couple of states where there's restriction in prison during probation and post sentence, and that's true in a handful of states. It looks like.
Right. There's only, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, because my mind is all over the place. There are 2 states in the union that those rights have never been interfered with, right? Taken, but is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2.
I think it's 3.
Was it Vermont, Maine,
and DC, District of Columbia?
Right. So, and we wanted to be clear. So what we did was make sure that people understood in their specific area, their region, that they understood and understand, right, what the rules are, and guide them to where they can go to verify these things or not. And so we wanted to make that clear, because it's not clear across the board. What we do have clear across the board is that the direct link between the end of the Civil War in 1865, right, and the increase in felony disenfranchisement laws, right? And so it's like 3 years after the 13th Amendment was ratified and slavery was abolished, right, except in the case of punishment for a crime. So the 14th Amendment cemented felony disenfranchisement as a legal practice within the Constitution, while the 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all people born or naturalized in the United States, right? And so we have to be clear on that. So those are the things we have to educate our people. We know we're still under slavery clauses based on the 13th Amendment. Most of us, the majority of the nation across and the world, is clear about that, right? And so those are some things that we have to attack in this moment.
So let me just drill down a little further. 30 states currently prohibit people from voting if they're on probation, parole, or have completed their sentence. Approximately 1 in 40 adults can't vote because of a current or prior felony conviction. Of this population, over 1 million are African Americans who've completed their sentence. Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Virginia have the highest rates of disenfranchisement in the country, with 27% of the nation's disenfranchised population in Florida. What do all those states have in common? As you said, Donna, in the South, Civil War. Michelle, looking at this Supreme Court thing, I kind of had a secret hope. Because, we're up against the wall anyway. So you pick, one of 2 bad people, Amy Coney Barrett, Barbara Lagoa. I was kind of hoping that Trump picked Lagoa from Florida, because she was the one who didn't recuse herself in that appeals court finding regarding Florida's formerly incarcerated fees. In other words, folks, for those of you who don't know, in Florida, people are supposed to get the right to vote back. The people voted for that. I think it was Amendment 4. I think it's what it was in Florida. But then they want to put fees. They said, now you got to pay the fees in order to come out of it. And she was one of the judges that upheld that fee structure, which is wrong. But I thought if he picked her, it would give us an opportunity to educate on this very issue even more directly because of her direct involvement, Michelle. That was kind of my weird wish.
Yeah, well, you're right, because at least it would bring some national attention to this issue. Most people are not even aware that it's an issue. And most people, like Donna said, who have a criminal record, that's something that you're told at the time that you get sentenced, is that you will lose your right to vote. You'll lose your right to bear arms. You'll lose your right to vote. Those are the civil rights that are taken away from you. And nobody has come out and said, how do we re-educate people? And the only way we can do that is by having the national conversation. And so having somebody like her get that nomination would enable us to at least make it an issue that people can talk about.
But let's be clear too, Mark, just real quick, why she didn't get that nomination, right? There's more things on the line, right, that affect us directly that, that was more precedent with them. Right, we're subject to lose the Affordable Care Act, Roe versus Wade, Plessy versus Ferguson. I mean, so many things. So,
yeah.
Be clear.
I think.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. How's the campaign going in terms of? Because if I hear you all correctly, this is directed, first of all, priority to those who have been misinformed about or disinformed about what their rights are. Correct. How's the campaign going, Donna?
Well, it's going exceptionally well. It would be clear. So there's many of us across the nation that have even created these voters coalitions, right? And so, like, just for us, with a little piece of light, we are across the state registering people to vote who have had prior felony convictions or minor, whatever it may be. But we're also instigating our communities as a whole to be registered and to get involved and to vote, not just to register, but to vote, cast that ballot. So we're out there with registration forms, the ballot forms. We're out there. We're out there every weekend. We're out there some weekdays. We're out there because the thing of it is, and we have to be clear with that too, right, Mark? We have to really get our people to understand, if we didn't have some power in this vote, if it didn't mean anything, they wouldn't be fighting so hard and doing every damn thing that they could possibly do to make sure that we don't exercise that right.
Yeah, that's a good point. You talked about New York. So what is the situation in New York exactly? Once you are no longer incarcerated, your right is immediately restored.
Yeah. Right. So if you're no longer incarcerated in prison, you're right, and you're out, you can vote. If you are detained, you can still vote. You can still register and you still vote, but that's been an issue. They don't want to help with that. They don't want to send the registration forms, and it's governmental stuff, and there's so many barriers that they put in place. But once people are, to your point, out on probation or parole and probation, if it's city, or statewide, they do have the right to vote unless it's specific to that individual, that there's a reason why they can't. But for the most part, everyone with a prior conviction can vote if they're out.
Michelle, what about Arizona? What's the situation there in terms of your right to vote?
The situation in Arizona is, one, it's about educating people, and we've been doing a lot of that. They've just been running some programs in our public libraries to inform people and help people to file the paperwork to get their right to vote. The thing in Arizona is you actually have to file paperwork with the courts in order to be able to get your right to vote back. And so there's no automatic restoration of it. It requires an action. And there's a lot of people who are going through that action right now, but it's a matter of, will they get those processed in time for people to be able to register to vote, right? So me personally, I've been out of prison for over 20 years, and I am still fighting the uphill battle of getting my rights to vote back, right? They found a restitution fine that I owed to a company that is no longer in business, has been out of business for over 15 years. And said I owed them $300 and some odd and couldn't have my rights back because of that. So now I've paid that and have to refile all over again. So this is my my third effort to get mine back. So there's constant barriers and processes that get in the way. And when you're, for somebody, I've been out for a long time, so dealing with it is just more of an annoyance on my part. But for people who have just gotten out of prison, who are struggling, fighting the battle of getting a place to live, getting a job, transportation, reintegrating back into the community, unfortunately, taking care of paperwork and filing paperwork to get your civil rights restored falls to the bottom of your priority list. There's just so much to deal with. And so California is in the process. Prop 17 in California is going to restore the voting rights for 50,000 people who have recently been released from prison. And that's really kind of the bigger picture move that we need all of the states to do, is to move to this point of everybody is just automatically, not even that their voting rights have to be restored, is that they're never lost in the first place. As long as I'm an American citizen, then I should have the right to vote on the issues that matter to me and to my family.
Let me just ask a question, though. This restitution, the restitution that you were required to pay, was it in any way related to your conviction?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I know that's just something they just came up with randomly.
But they use it as a barrier. They've weaponized, right? They've weaponized these fines and fees. First of all, it should not have anything to do with your citizenship, right? Or your citizenry.
Right.
That should not have anything to do with that. If it doesn't stop me from getting a job, then it shouldn't stop me from casting a vote. If it doesn't stop me from setting up Wi-Fi and cable and all these, you get what I'm saying? It should not prohibit me from casting a vote or registering. It should not do that. So they've criminalized and weaponized everything possible that they can. And let's be clear, right now there are 18 million of us in this country who can vote. That's a strong voting bloc right there, right? And we're working on the rest. And that's why this toolkit that we created is so important, because people can go right to it and they can find out if they're eligible, right? Know what to do if they're not, to work through those processes like Michelle is talking about. And also to teach people that it's not just when time for presidential election, vote in and out your council people, all whatever that local electeds are, you know what I'm saying? Municipal electeds are. Vote in the mayor, vote out the mayor, vote in the DAs and the judges. So we can't complain about it when we have the power to get them out of here and get who we want in as well. So we're clear in this toolkit.
Donna, in New York, do they have the same type of fine situation and restitution, all that they?
So, but not to prohibit us from voting. They have not tacked that on. And let's be clear what they did in Florida. We know why they did it in Florida. Let's make it plain. They did it in Florida because there's a strong, heavy, concentrated community of people who have had felony convictions in Black neighborhoods specifically, and brown, but specifically Black neighborhoods. And we know there's a large contingency of Black people in Florida. Imagine if those people can vote. I was down there with my colleagues in Florida a couple years back when we were out there door knocking to get people to sign on and say, yes, it's time for people with felony convictions to vote. We were doing that. We were helped in that process. And then they won. Desmond Meade and the rest won that. And then all of a sudden now, because who do they have in place to do that? These people that we don't realize that we can vote out.
Right. The very people making the decision, we have the power.
Yeah, put our people in.
Michelle, Donna just mentioned the importance of voting, not just for the president. So obviously, everybody's upset about what happened in Kentucky in the past few days. But that AG position, that's an elected position. And that also was an opportunity to highlight, y'all, every office counts. Every vote for every office counts, doesn't it, Michelle?
Well, absolutely. It's the offices, the offices like the Attorney General. These are the ones that are driving our mass incarceration rates in the first place, right? The rate at which people get sentenced to prison is being dictated by what's happening in our local county systems. right?
Right.
That's not happening at the presidential level. That's not happening at the Supreme Court judge level. That is the judges here in my own Maricopa County Superior Court and everybody else's, court systems. That's what's driving our mass incarceration. And if we're not paying attention to who we're putting into those seats, then we're not paying attention to what's happening in our own communities, because it's our voice that influences not things just like the Attorney General, but our state senators, our House of Representatives. These are the folks that are responsible for passing the laws that don't go to ballot, right? There's all the laws that get voted on just in the House and at that level. And we have to make sure that we're putting the right people in those seats by exercising our votes.
That's right. Very important. Donna, let's talk about, speaking of Breonna, let's talk about women. Often, still too often, the image of incarceration is male, but this affects a lot of women, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And let's be very clear, the percentage of incarceration for women in this country in the last 30 years has increased at a rate of almost 800%. So what that's saying is that when the stats showed, right, that maybe 1 in every 10, right, Black woman or woman of color was incarcerated, now we're saying it's 1 in every 4. You know what I mean? If you break it down ratio wise. And so what is that saying? It's very telling, especially in certain neighborhoods. And we know these neighborhoods that have become $1 million blocks in this city, in New York City alone. But we know that's California, that's Arizona, New Mexico. It's all over. It's a concentrated effort by those that want to criminalize and to keep us their knees in our necks under the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and any other constitutional amendment that they could think of, you know what I mean? To make sure that we don't have the power and the ability to rise above these things. But when we get woke, and we're making sure our people are woke now, then they become afraid. And that's why we see what's happening, like with Breonna. What happened to Breonna? Let's make that plain as well. We know that they've been having these concerted efforts in Wisconsin and the like to get people out of neighborhoods. They're doing it here in New York. The projects, they're going to people's doors weekly, knock, a bag of money, you know what I mean? And we know that under Bloomberg, the projects, right, have been sold already to big corporations. And now de Blasio, you lit the candle. You lit the candle on it. So these are concerted efforts to take these communities, our communities, what you call urban and ghetto, and vilify us with them, to do what you want to do. But we don't have to have these people as our electeds. We can vote them out. Once we realize that we can change, just like the census is very important. If we can get all our people to fill out the census so we can have we can get the monies that our communities need to fix up our communities, invest in the people and in the communities, we will get somewhere. But we have to educate our people about these things.
And now that you mentioned that, there's no restriction on the census either, if you're formerly incarcerated. No. That should not be a hindrance at all. And you're not penalized for filling it out. So, Michelle, for those listening, why don't we walk them through some of the steps they can take? Folks, now this is if you need to know what your rights are, or if you have a loved one that you need to let know what their rights are. What are some of the things that people can do? Tell us, please, Michelle, with this toolkit.
I think that they can go, and Donna's been talking about it. One of the things the toolkit does is it provides a resource where you can go in and answer a series of questions. What state are you in? How many felony convictions do you have? Do you owe restitution? Are you on probation? Are you on parole? And then it walks you through it and then tells you whether or not you are eligible to get your right to vote back. And then and what you need to do specifically to get it. So I, first of all, would encourage everyone who has a criminal record, who does not have their right to vote, to take a minute and to go to the Represent Justice Facebook page or website. The website is representjustice.org/freeourvote. And you can go there and run through the process and find out what you need to do. The other thing that people could do for those people like myself who are not eligible is to raise awareness. Like Donna said, go out and join a group that is helping to get other people registered. Share the Free Our Vote information with all of your networks of people. And then even within your own family, right? In my case, because parents who don't vote have children who don't vote. And so what I found was I have 2 grown sons who don't vote. And so that's the conversation we've been having at the dinner table is, you have to vote. You need to be part of the process. So look at your own circle of family and friends and have the conversation about, are you voting and are you educated and aware of what the issues that you need to be voting on and how to go about doing it, and then help facilitate that process for them.
That's the plan for representjustice.org. Let me ask you this too, Donna. Are there more movement like what happened in Florida and other states popping up around the country in some of these states to change some of this, some of these loopholes so people can have greater access to the ballot?
Yeah. So in California, our colleagues out there have Proposition 47. So they can get rid of that whole block, the denial for those that have felony convictions to vote. So we're just waiting on that to be passed and just pushing that initiative. But there are others. So, we're across the nation working on things. Prop 17, I'm sorry, I said 47, Prop 17, to make, California, to get people to vote. But there are other small initiatives and large initiatives across the country. You see that the NBA players and the like have been getting together and asking that and making certain, what are those stadiums, voting areas and stuff. We're focusing on trying to get people inside detention centers here in New York to get those that are detained to be able to fill out their ballots as well. All right. And we've been doing this hands-on, trying to do this work. So we're all across the nation making sure. And again, if anybody has any questions or needs any help and not sure how to do and go about it, we are here. Just reach out to us at Represent Justice. This is what this organization is about. There's 16 of us who have been system impacted, along with those who created this organization with us in mind to do this work. So if you can't vote right now and you want to help drive somebody to a voting site, you want to stand with them during that time, if you want to help them fill out the registration or the voting ballots, reach out. We'll do that. We'll help. We'll help you understand how to do that. So let's motivate our people. Again, if we didn't have a power in this moment, if we never had the power in our vote, they wouldn't be fighting so hard to keep us from doing it and trying to take it away from us. We have to be real clear about that.
And can I say something before we go? You're right. They wouldn't be fighting to take it from us. But I also believe that a lot of the mass incarceration we've seen over the years was for the express purpose of disenfranchisement. In other words, I never believed it was just about, well, let's just stop crime. Let's just lock folk up as a preventative thing. It was really about preventing people from voting, because let's be honest, how many people are disenfranchised and locked up for non-violent stuff in the first place, right?
But it doesn't even matter. And we're gonna make that clear right now, right? That shouldn't even matter about nonviolent and violent. That's their language to keep us divided and to keep us asleep. It doesn't matter. I was convicted of a violent crime. Am I that crime? No. Am I violent? No, I never hurt anybody in my life.
Right.
I've been hurt. And there's so many just like that. So we have to be clear and don't use their narrative and their language to keep us divided and keep us asleep and to keep us thinking like, oh my God, well, if they have a violent crime, they shouldn't be like, no. If Robert Durst wasn't a multi-millionaire serial killer, okay, and there's nothing wrong with him keep coming out back and forth, and he's a serial killer, mentally diagnosed that way, then please don't come at our people and talk about we're violent, we're thugs, we're this, we're that, and we should not have any opportunities because we don't have the money or we don't have the right skin color. Let's be really clear about that.
Yeah. So Michelle, you've been trying to get your franchise back for 20 years. Are we any closer? Where are we on that? So
I would say that, the everything's paid, the paperwork's filed, and now we wait and see. The last time around, the notice that I got back was the county attorney was opposing it because I was on probation at the time that I committed the crime. So I had 3 cases. 2 of them, they have been restored. The third one they're using as a way to say, well, you were on probation when you did this, so therefore you shouldn't have the right to vote. So we will see.
And that's crazy too.
I'll have an answer.
That's crazy too. They shouldn't. People like that shouldn't be able to make arbitrary rulings like that. It ought to be one size fits all. You're out. You have your right. They want to go back to probation on something else when you commit. I mean, how do you pull that out of a hat like that?
We want to go back 20 years and say something you did that long ago.
Very subjective.
The knee in the neck.
Yeah, got to get the subjectivity out of it. Folks, go to representjustice.org /free our vote. This can obviously benefit you and others in your life. Let's try to help everyone be aware of what their rights are, and let's continue to struggle to have everyone's rights fully activated and restored and no longer denied. That's what we've got to have. Again, representjustice.org. I want to thank Michelle Sirocco and Donna Hylton, 2 formerly incarcerated women doing very, very important work on behalf of the ex-offender community. We thank you both for joining us here, okay?
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.